You wouldn't want two languages at once in sixth grade. Like,
2019. This is a regular monthly meeting of the Newmarket School Board. We'll start it, as we do the others, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll go right to public comment, if there's any. None? Okay, let's move on to the discussion items for tonight. We have a list of them here on the agenda. School board goals is the first one. We had a retreat recently and came up with, I think four board goals. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, what I thought we could do here tonight is, members have added to them, I guess, elaborated a little bit on them. We can go through each one and talk about what your thoughts are in terms of the breakdown. Al, I can start with you. You were the.
I didn't bring mine with me.
I have them,
You got them? All
I'll
here?
you and I can share. Yeah, there's Elizabeth sent hers.
Okay.
Allison
I have
his.
mine.
I have mine. Do you want me to make copies?
I have
Enough.
enough.
Copies, okay.
Al doesn't have one,
Yeah, that's fine.
and Kim doesn't have one.
Kim and I'll share.
I
Yeah,
made
we're
one
good
for each
sharers.
of you, and you and I can share.
Pass it on.
I could share one too, or whatever.
So we got, so anyway, the one that I was assigned was the, first goal, which was
Two out of three.
the building project. And the first suggestion I made was
Thank
that
you.
we accept as a goal that we're gonna complete the renovation of the elementary and junior or senior projects within or less than budget of $38,943,083, consistent with the plan approved by voters. The second one was to complete the renovation of the elementary school by August of 2019. I believe we've done that already. And the complete renovation of the junior high school by August of 2020, consistent with the plan approved by voters. The third was, should the forecast for renovations be under budget, which was the 38 million, prepare a list of 20 for consideration by the facilities and school board. And just as a backup to that, the facilities committee, a year ago, Mike, probably, began discussions on ad alternatives. And we have a complete list of ad alternatives ranging from a emergency generator, completion of the courtyard area, and I think there were about 12 or 14 items on there, and they were distributed to the faculty, the facility staff, and the faculty we both prioritized what they were without consideration of cost, which may change the rank order of them. But that list is all ready, and we're thinking by January, we need to decide whether, get that list together and prepared.
Right.
So that if there is some budget monies left over, we can use it. And lastly, should the bond interest be under budget, prepare a warrant article for March 2020 for approval to expend for ad alternatives by the Facilities Committee and School Board. And what that means is if our interest expense, which we think it will be, is less than is programmed, that we have the consent or the opinion of the public as to whether we should spend that money on the ad alternatives, which I discussed earlier. So those were the four.
Yeah. Those,
So any thoughts or changes, please?
I think, first of all, Al, thanks for putting those together, and then stepping back a little bit, and we're trying to get on track with our goals early on in the year, because our goals will inform Susan's goals, and so that's really what this is all about as well. But just substantively, Al, on yours, I think you're spot on. There's gonna come a time towards the end of the year where the project is at a certain stage where we're gonna hopefully have a level of comfort, where it is and be able to make decisions. To remind folks, given that the budget's a lean one for the project, we have been holding off on a whole number of things that probably should go into the project. But, we're kind of on the line between absolute needs and sort of, other enhancements to the program. So that's gonna take, I think we need, it's an excellent goal, but I think that's gonna take some time to go through. Because we're gonna have to, we should, I should say, coordinate that with the facilities committee, involve them, have their recommendation as well, and so they all understand. But also, working with Ekman and understanding, what else is out there that could pop up, and that could affect the budget between, later this fall and the end of the project, somewhere around, April or May, so those are my thoughts. Any others on those goals?
I don't know, my initial thought was, I think, Al, you've done a great job of sort of outlining these major things that we're gonna have to be addressed in this next bit of time before the second building is finished and the project itself is finished. But I think maybe for this, we need to think more of a global, maybe that first one, or maybe some combination of the first two, sort of getting those things complete, and then there can be either sub-goals or Susan's goals or future goals, timeline-wise for the different things moving forward. That's just my thought about it.
Any other thoughts on?
Because you did a great job, Al.
Yeah, I think some of the goals that follow the first goal or subsets of that, overarching goal of completing the building project on time and within budget.
Yeah, I agree, and the thing that somewhat forces our hand is if we're gonna do anything with bond interest, for example, we need to do it this March. So we can't afford to wait we can forecast the bond interest pretty carefully, I think. You add the add alternatives list, there are a number of those in there that we're gonna have to step ahead on because we've got Ekman on board, and we've got them on board just through the end of the year. So if we can say, for example, that we have a confidence level that we can spend $25,000 to do the courtyard, it would be prudent to not only forecast it, but prepare that cost so we really know what we're talking about, and then say to Ekman, can you get it done within the time period while you're here?
Because they need planning.
They need planning, so
Yeah.
we can't afford to wait until the end and say, guess what, we've got 25, and then call Ekman back in and get a price, and then call them back in and say, now go to the vendors.
I wonder on that line of thinking, Al, meaning we don't have forever to do this, we have a tight schedule, is if maybe at the next, on the agenda, is to refresh people's memory on that at the next facilities meeting, get that list back out.
Yep.
See where we're at,
Yep.
And,
Yep.
so we'll add that to the next agenda. The other question I had is more of a legal one, is, to the degree, for instance, if we put out if it turns out that we request a warrant article on bond interest, in whole or in part, I think there was roughly $550,000 in there, right around, at present. Just to remind people, that's money that it's from investments that the bond money is in part invested, the part that hasn't been spent and it's earning income. And that's there, but you need to have a warrant article to use it. My question I had was, if it's not used, how quickly does it have to go back?
To the taxpayers, yeah, I
Exactly,
don't know.
in whole or in part. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
We should find that out.
It's a good point.
It's hard too, because, there's so many great things on that add alternate list that I would like to see happen, but I also have this feeling of, I wanna hold on into every dollar that we can, just to make sure.
So just in case.
I mean, that's not I'm positive that it's gonna be fine, but it just makes me nervous a little bit.
I mean, the big things are done.
Right.
The things that we were afraid of, tearing down the walls, we were so worried about all that, and now.
And that's why I think, Mike, your point is good to say, let's look at this at the next meeting with Ekman there to
Right.
say logically, let's just wait to get rid of all these fears that people have, because this is what we've already done.
It's really a dynamic issue because, as Al pointed out, you can't really just bring Ekman back all of a sudden.
No.
They gotta ramp up, and there's that category of things, but there's other categories, like the bleachers.
Yeah.
Is an ad alternate down at the elementary school. I don't know how that got to be an ad alternate, but, it's one of those things that I can have a gym and have parents and functions in there without any place to sit. But that's not an Ekman issue, but we need to sort of start thinking about all these things, because it's gonna be here quickly.
And there's a significant need for furniture that wasn't funded, and that has instructional implications, and something I'm particularly concerned about. So being able to have those conversations
Right.
now.
Because you
and,
have that 21st century building, and they're still gonna have furniture from the 1950s.
Or because it's expanded, you won't necessarily have furniture in the spaces
Yep.
that you've added, so.
Right.
And I think what all this says is we just need a plan in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we can look at it and say, okay, the emergency generator is gonna cost $500,000, and there's no way we're gonna have that, so we can pull, just to get everybody's head around bleachers,
Furniture.
furniture is up here in
Yeah.
importance, and this is what it's gonna cost.
Yep.
So,
Yep, as we're talking it out here, it just seems all the more urgent that we get it going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have time to contemplate, make decisions, and plan. Any other comments on that goal that I did for us? Okay. Okay. 21st century best practices.
I think I gave you all copies of what I started with. So I started on this goal. It's our goal to transition the district's policies and procedures to align with 21st century best practices in supporting, enhancing quality teaching and learning experiences for students. So we talked about, there's many areas in which this needs to happen. And at our retreat, we had 3 areas to start. And my understanding was there were 3 areas to start with. One being communication, and I said communication among all stakeholders, including school administration, faculty, school staff, students, and parents and guardians. We had another one was personnel-related policy and procedures, and this is where I was not clear on exactly what it was that we were talking about that we wanted to do. So I left that blank for us to fill in together. Same thing with the next one on finance, and I added, is it budgetary related policy and procedures that we wanted to examine. So then I was thinking about what might the process be for us to do that, and it seems as though we should, and I know that you've been examining existing policies, but if we had an eye towards these 3 areas in particular and examining our existing policies and the way in which they're implemented, with the understanding that perhaps they're not implemented in the way that they were intended, possibly, and how we can improve them with an eye towards enhancing teaching quality in particular and the quality of the student experiences. So I do not have, this is what my idea is for this year, and then for the next year, this would be an ongoing process with different areas of focus, and I also believe that when it comes to our policies and procedures, it's always going to be an ongoing process. So it's not just a goal for this
Sure.
year, but these are the focus areas for this year.
Any thoughts?
I agree with you, it's just an ongoing thing, that will just continue, which is what we should be focusing on. And then once all this is done, the building's done, we can start focusing back on, or add on to what we've already started to focus on.
I think it goes back to that whole staying in our lane thing that we talked about, core goals are supervising Susan, maintaining the policy and developing it, and maintaining a budget. Developing that. So I think,
And supervising me is a full-time job.
Yes.
And I realize these need to be much more specific to be smart. I understand that. So
No, it's,
they may not be particularly smart right now.
it's smart that you left it to us.
There you go.
Yeah. So, having, maybe start the discussion, but, personnel-related policies and procedures, including, I'm not sure, I wasn't there, so I didn't have the benefit of that discussion. And I don't know if this falls under that. We talked as a board about assessing, compensation. Is that under a different goal? That's you? Okay, so that's not what this is.
Well, it kind of, I think this, in some ways, that breaks out
Yeah.
into a bigger conversation about the personnel piece, so,
was this part of the stability piece of things?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
I-
and the compensation
thought.
part is looking at a part of that,
Yeah, retaining.
yep.
What are some other, Susan, if you could help, what are some other words we might wanna consider in there, some topic headings?
Okay.
Personnel and policy, procedures and hiring practices, perhaps?
Growth and development, induction programming, I mean, all things around supporting teachers as they come into our school district, as well as programming to help them throughout their career arc to maintain, state-of-the-art knowledge about theory and practice. So
Yeah.
it's how are we supporting those kinds of,
Professional.
how do our policies support those kinds of programming pieces that we would want to have in place? And of course, then there's the other side of it, which is, kind of an HR function, to what degree do our policies and procedures align with Fair Labor Standards Act, for example, and things along those lines, so that we make sure that what we do is efficient, effective, and results in us,
Consistent with,
complying with
laws.
laws.
My opinion is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel in personnel policy and procedures. There are hundreds of examples of schools and companies that have an index of personnel policies and procedures, and they're pretty standard. They can be very expansive or very limited. And my suggestion would be that we identify an index of limited personnel policies and procedures that, first of all, are mandated by law, because those don't require any interpretation on our part at all. They talk about things like hiring practices and when you pay for overtime, when you don't, and what kind of vacations are required, and all those kinds of things. So that doesn't need to be reinvented, in my opinion. That's just a standard index. Then the second one is things that are critical to us. There are some things in personnel policies and procedures that aren't critical to us, but there are some that are. And it may include things like quality of treatment, how we treat employees. That's a policy, and it's a practice. So, again, my thought is to and say by the end of the year, we're gonna establish a list of 20, I don't know what the number is, mandated ones we're gonna have done this year, I would hope, if we don't already. And then the voluntary ones are the things you want to use in your company. We can pick a number as to how many of those we think ought to be done.
And maybe a focus area or two, like you said, and focus on an area or two and just do those well.
Yep.
And then we have the policies, I put into practice the procedures, we begin to assemble a handbook,
Yep.
that we can use and do a piece this year and another piece next year. And I think hiring practice would be what I'd like to start off with,
Sure.
Because that is
Sure.
core to hiring staff efficiently, and in this kind of a labor market, if we're not, following through
Right.
in an efficient way, then we're losing candidates and getting in cycle for when those opportunities to hire staff that are looking, that all of those, components are in place so that we're accessing the best labor pool we can for the positions that we have open. And then when we're advertising that, we're implementing practices that candidates in a way that results in the best teachers that we can find, so.
And another alternative, we went through this year the personnel policies and practices from beginning to end. And I think it's fairly new, am I correct? The handbook that we just did, that includes personnel policies and procedures.
The ones that all the policies we just did?
Yeah.
So
No,
No,
but
the
we have a-
handbooks.
we have a
I think that was
handbook.
2 years ago, because I think
We-
there were
yeah.
We have
two.
a handbook that said these are our personnel practices and policies. Might be a good idea to look at if we haven't, look at that and say, are we doing pretty well on it? It just needs some modification, or,
They might be on the website.
I read it,
I'll
I
check.
thought it was very well done.
I've not come across one yet,
Well,
but if it's there, I'll look.
it is,
It was like
Some-
2 years
some-
It was
ago.
about 2 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there were two separate books and it combined into one book, I think.
Yeah.
and a lot of work,
Okay.
as I recall, when everything, I thought, everything into it, federal, state, and local law was updated.
I believe that to be the
I'll look for it. Nothing's been provided to me since I've been here. I have asked for documents, so.
So along that line, it strikes me that on that goal, that there are these sort of formalized policies, like you talked about, Al, and then there's also philosophies, right? I mean, who are we gonna hire? And I think maybe Susan, you were alluding in part to that aspect, and like, what are your standards gonna be? Do you have certain minimum standards that you're looking for, and are those applied sort of universally, or does it depend on the people who were just in the interview that day?
Right.
Do they like the person, or do they really, critically look at their background and what the need is? I don't know, I don't have that comfort, nor have I been directly involved in it.
Yep.
But I think that's sort of the less formal, but as important, if not more, than the policy, you know what I'm saying, the hard policy book. I mean, they're both important, but, one without, having either, the absence of either is bad, having no hiring
Right.
philosophy. Okay, any other thoughts on that?
Well, just the hiring practice, I think that Susan actually stepped right into it, right? So she's seen how we have done it over the years, so this is a good time for her and her administration to rethink it and look at it. That's why I think it's important that it's part of that
Yeah,
as well.
and we can just review it.
Yeah.
I'll look for the documents you're referring to. I certainly know what I've witnessed, and I know that it's been an area that I've spent a tremendous amount of time on over the last 6 weeks to coach and
I will
provide
tell you, Susan, there was
documents and-
nothing in this book that Al's talking about that side of things.
Okay,
It was more of a practical, I don't believe.
No.
okay.
So I think there was more of a policies, legal things, as opposed to I'm a hiring person, what are the things that I do to achieve a hire? What am I looking for? How do I do it? How do I conduct an interview?
Exactly.
How do I
and
do
there's
references?
protocols after interviews for those that you don't. I have them written.
Right.
But
That does not
they weren't
exist.
part of your practice. I'll just say those types of things were
Right.
not part of the practice. Using rubrics to evaluate so that folks are absolutely, if you're going to have a writing prompt and you
Yeah.
have to establish a rubric ahead of time and you're grading so that you're not reading and saying, oh, I like this, oh, I like that, and then 3 people later you're grading differently because you like something they said over that. You have to set up those criteria in advance. I have a lot of that I've begun to introduce here to our practices, but
Sounds like a consistent,
there
it's
is,
more
there are
consistent.
21st century best practices for hiring.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time introducing those here, and we should just
Yeah, this is-
formalize that in some ways.
I mean, this is the,
And
Yeah.
as a result, as you know, there's been a number of candidates that I did not feel comfortable with
Right.
moving forward, and as we've gone out through the hiring process subsequently, we've introduced these kinds of strategies, and it's resulted in having some very high caliber, high quality hires that I think that you all in the community should be very pleased with, including the assistant principal we just hired.
Susan, I will say I got some feedback from someone who was in a hiring position this year in the district and this summer, and they were very pleased with the way that you helped guide them through the process and help them understand the direction to take, so thank you for that.
Well, yeah, sort of the silver lining to all these openings is you've had a lot of at-bats to see how it has been done. It's really early, you know, this is the hiring sheet. So I think we probably have a pretty decent sense of the holes. Anything else on that one? And then if not, finance budgetary related policy and procedures.
Can I share that one with you, Al?
I think,
Are you on,
I'm on,
Still on mine.
Oh.
I'm on the same one.
Oh.
The second blank.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, the second blank.
Second including,
And it could be a matter of, again, you have, yes,
in Susan, that may be, let me read it, the finance/budgetary related policies and procedures, I can't talk tonight, including blank. You may be getting into some of this when you talk about the budget process too. So I don't know if we wanna defer that, discussion, that's our second item on the agenda, for tonight, but, I think, I might have it wrong, but is that where that was headed?
in part it was related to budget, but there are other policies that one would hope you would have in place, and I have not had the opportunity to go through all of your policies at this point, but I can say that there are certain fundamental guiding principles to managing your finances, and one of them is segregation of duties, and the way that you organize your business operations should be based on ensuring that you have good internal controls, and to what degree do your policies and procedures align with those best practices for accounting and finance, and then how does that then relate to aligning your budget to goals that support high quality teaching and learning. So it's just really a review of that, you know, making sure that we have policies that support that, and if the policies are consistent with those ideas, then to what degree do our procedures align with the policy at that point? So it's really a review from that perspective.
I haven't got a clue on that one.
Yeah.
You have those,
There are some of those in place.
so maybe we need to add
Yep.
more, or try to
Yeah.
You know, I think when we get to a lot of these areas, be it personnel, be it finance, it's sort of like, and I think about what, again, our role is in that process. We develop a budget that supports the goal of the 21st century learners. Working with, so that's sort of what I'm thinking.
Yes.
We maintain policies and procedures for personnel that allow us to hire people that support the 21st learning century. So it sort of all goes back to that.
Exactly. And 21st century best practices.
Yes.
You know, for accomplishing those things, so.
Exactly.
You know, it's also, and we talked about this in the context of the audit. I mean, I think we had some questions last year. And I think we asked the right questions, you know, and I think the audit will cover those this year, those questions that we had outstanding in terms of job roles and segregation of duties. But I think from a high level, based on what you say, Kim, that's our broader goal. The nuts and bolts of it,
Yep.
you know, will be part of Susan's
Yep.
Susan's goal to oversee that. I don't want to get off script, but I think we have on the agenda an update on the audit. Again, we'll hit that down the road. Any other thoughts on that in that, finance budgetary, category.
I guess I had a question on all of these. You steered us towards SMART goals, which I read. It was wonderful, including examples. I mean, the examples in there are just drop dead. You know, this is what it is. It's clear to me what it is. This is what accomplishment looks like. And this is when it's going to be done. So my question is, as we look at personnel-related policies, or any of these, are we as a board gonna stick with that SMART goal theory, examples? Of, we're not going to say we're gonna update personnel-related policies and procedures. We're gonna be very specific. And we're gonna say, we're gonna identify policies and procedures, and they are gonna be, so we know what it is. And we're gonna have a 30,000-foot view of what they are by mid-year, and by the end of the year, and I'm making this up,
Yeah.
all
Measurable.
legal, no, but I mean, all
It's good, no.
all federal, state, local required goals will be done and implemented. And I think that's what we're talking about.
We are, and I guess I should have.
I don't wanna drive the conversation.
No, I think so, Al, I mean, because otherwise they're aspirational.
Yeah.
And they never go anywhere. I agree, and just for tonight's purpose, this is a first look at these.
Yeah.
We'll, think about them after this meeting, I just wanted to get the discussion going.
Oh, we're back.
This will be,
And that's why I
No,
say,
it's-
I'm not saying it to be critical, I'm just saying,
yeah.
I
No,
think we
they
need,
should take
I mean,
that
I look at
form.
all of these and I
Yeah.
say, what does it mean, a successful contract with the parent? What does it mean? I
Right.
mean, we gotta,
Right.
so,
We gotta,
And when I was writing these, I realized that they weren't, that I needed your help to make them smart.
You mean you just didn't absorb all the policies?
we had Jen, we had you at the meeting,
Yeah.
your first meeting. Okay.
Up and running by now.
But they also have to be executable, so.
Right.
To your point, we can't do everything related to personnel in one fell swoop, because, well, we could, but.
Something else would have to suffer because there's only so
Exactly.
much
So
time.
there has to
Like you
be
said.
balance, so it can't be four enormous goals in one area. We have 4 areas we've identified as topics that we want to attend to.
Yep.
We know that the building project is not optional.
No.
It's in front of us, and so,
Yep.
that's gonna drive the degree to which we can look at other areas. All important, but, we have to make sure that, we're not setting ourselves up to,
Yeah.
not be successful.
Next.
yes. Parrot contract,
Oh, parent contract.
et cetera.
Alright, so I again question what I was doing so hopefully I did this well, but, I said my goal was to negotiate initial contract with pairs as well as retain and attract qualified staff. So I guess I should have been more broad on that, but then I wrote, the district will be negotiating a contract with a para union this year. The union and district will need to come to a fair contract to help and retain staff. And what I had actually written, because I sent this really quick at school. So I wrote that we as a board would like to see the Newmarket paras fairly paid, but then I thought that was too broad. So that's why I kind of tried to get it down. I said I would also like to be able to attract highly qualified applicants and retain the ones that we have. The board and the administration need to form a budget to attract qualified staff. And then I just said, our staff's the heart of the school. That's kind of where I went. And then after that, I said, creating a fair contract, passing a budget will be the board's way of measuring our success on communicating to the community our need for attracting and retaining staff. And we as a board and our administration have the skills to communicate our budget needs. We did it with the building project. We've done this before.
The last contract.
Last
Making
contract.
the case.
We know how to make our
Yeah.
case. We have a new leader. And so I think this is an attainable goal.
I think that's a great way you phrased it. Start again, this is, we can put timeframes in the
Yep.
next couple of weeks and narrow them down. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I would say have a ratified contract by December 1st, if that's a reasonable deadline.
Yep.
And then have it on the ballot for March
Yes.
2020.
Yeah, I think
And between those times, make sure that effective communication happens for people to understand what they're voting on in March.
Mindful that it will all have to be incorporated into a budget that's
Yep.
due
Yep.
Yeah, because
before that.
I wrote
Whatever
this-
the best deadline
Yeah.
is, given the 20,000 deadlines that we have for the budget.
I said this goal is realistic, and the deadline would be the town deliberative.
Mhm.
Because that's when we'll learn.
Yeah.
That's when the town tells us what they think.
And I think the other part of, that is a broader look at our compensation for all positions. Because there should be a relationship between,
Right.
market and positions and levels of positions. There should be, some distance between administrative salaries and, professional salaries, but it should make sense in the context of the market. And we should, try to focus as soon as possible on understanding what that is. Not that you can attack all of that and make everything
But that would be-
competitive in a market, to the market immediately, but if we can identify what that looks like, then it gives us a sense of, where the ship should be heading. So as
Right.
we're having to make choices and decisions, we can do that within the context of what will attract the highest quality staff that we can for each and every position that we hire.
It's gonna be very difficult to go into negotiations without understanding the marketplace.
Yeah.
That, and I think what,
You just, I mean,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah,
do,
nothing.
just
You-
beat each other up until you
guessing.
come, you've gotta say, this is the market value of a paralegal with, a paraprofessional with 5 years, or whatever.
Right.
At least an idea, not,
Right. Well, and then you also have to remember our district, right? So it's a district of a similar size and.
right,
Yes.
absolutely,
And we
and where
have
you
that,
want,
and
and where
some
you
of
wanna
it's
compete with them.
Yeah, so one of the things that's super important for now and for the future is to identify comps for the district. So you wanna have comps that make sense in terms of who we are demographically, but also, our communities that maybe we wanna aspire to be like, so that when we're comparing, all kind of matrices, that we're using these comps throughout. So if we're going to look at compensation, we also wanna look at performance in terms of SATs and their scores and in, other, assessments that we track as
AP tests.
AAP tests, DIBELS and reading scores and math scores and things like that, so that we're able to look and see how are we doing in relation to these communities. And if our compensation is below the market and our test scores are below the market and we have a high turnover rate, then maybe we need to start making, some steps towards closing some of those gaps that would allow us to retain staff, because staff retention is an important part of being able to achieve
our
your
biggest-
academic goals. If you're turning over your staff 20% every year of your professional staff, then that means that you're introducing people into your district, and if we're paying a lot of money in professional development, which we do here, that means we're giving them, the support and the resources to advance their educational skills, and then they leave us because they can make, $10,000 more in a surrounding community.
15 minutes down the road.
So, that doesn't benefit us. In other words, the investment's really high and we're not getting any bang for our buck. And it's not good for kids either, because as soon as we get those teachers, at some of the peak of their teaching experience, they're leaving us, so.
How can you have any continuity in curriculum and
Right.
Yeah.
in academics if you don't have consistent staff?
Right.
You can't.
Huge.
It's not,
Yeah,
it really
it's
is
very
an
important.
impossible
Right.
And that's
task.
where we're seeing the drop off, because we're losing, where we usually lose them is the high school,
Yeah.
middle school. So we see the curriculum kinda just drop off, no consistency, if I remember our conversation.
Well, it's trying to advance programming at the high school level, you really need to have staff that are very familiar with, yeah.
And maybe a suggestion for a step off on this. Kim mentioned having a contract completed by when?
December.
So that means we need to, by November, present to the board information relative to our competition so that we can make a reasonable decision that if we take our body of competitors, we can get that information very easily and say, okay, we know our body of competitors and we want to be at the 80th percentile of those competitors because we want to beat 80% of our competitors, but we're willing to, and I'm making these numbers up, we want to back down on 20% because we can't be there. Then we should be able to give the board a number and say, we'll go into negotiations knowing
Exactly.
where we want to be.
Exactly.
And I think October, whatever, and that may need some extra hard work to do it, but
You see where all this is going? This is critical, and it's good that we're doing this, cause we've gotta have a lot of balls going
Yep.
on, right? So we're gonna need to sugar these off into SMART goals, but also calendars,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
and it just,
Yeah.
it helps us, I mean,
It defines our work.
We
It
can
defi-
we
and
can
it-
almost start to, look at our agendas going out and start putting these things as
Right.
placeholders on those, as
Yeah.
you're saying.
and maybe you can, or we can assign each other projects.
Yeah.
You
We're
know,
gonna need to, I think we're gonna need all hands.
especially Elizabeth, you and I are doing negotiations, right? I mean,
And we have our ground rules meeting, don't forget, I think it's the 25th.
yeah, so,
3:00.
so maybe Elizabeth and I do some cranking on comp stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do it, but,
I think at the next meeting, what would be great is if we could, come forward with who are our comps. I mean, I've done some work, Mary's done some work for us in that
Yeah.
regard.
Good, thank you.
And in fact, when we were looking at setting the salary range for the SBA, she had done some work on that and said, okay, so this is, in this region, this is the size that's similar to you. I don't know where to access demographical information, but perhaps you do because you're familiar with more, if this is Massachusetts, I would know how to
Right.
get that, but,
it's all public, but
Yeah.
we just did this
Last year.
last year for the teachers' contract.
okay, so you have
this-
10 comp communities?
I think
I-
so.
yeah, I
You
I'm
should
trying to
go
think
with
of what that,
but it-
10 communities that you should use.
But we've got, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need to reinvent that either, and then it's just a matter of going online.
Right.
I mean, it's,
Absolutely.
it's just time.
If you know who the comps are, I
We
think we
do.
should advertise, or
I'll-
at
I'll
least
see if I
Jen
can-
and I, this will be new to us, who
Let
our
me see, where
comps
can I
are.
find that?
I was gonna say.
I know
we
Mary
asked
had done
Penny.
some work on that.
yeah.
Yeah, cause it should be in the budget
Yeah.
communication from last
And you
year.
know too, don't you already, Elizabeth,
You
or
what?
comps, pretty much?
Well, I'm just thinking of
I
the
don't
ones that
know.
we use, I can just see
know a
the,
few of them, but I don't know all
Okay,
10.
so we'll get that list, cause
Yeah.
there was a lot of work done on the teachers'
Yeah.
contract.
and I think also another piece of this thing, aside from, and Susan, you touched on a little bit, looking at, okay, this is not occurring in a vacuum. If we make this decision to increase these salaries by this, what does that do to other things? If we need to bump up the admin team by a certain amount, where's that money coming from? How are we making that happen? So that's a whole nother piece of the whole thing too.
Yep, which may be a,
So that way, when
March
you're
of next
going
year.
out, just like
yeah.
we did on this one, it's, with the
Yeah.
AP or the SBA, you
Yeah.
should have a mind for that. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have to,
Nope.
yeah.
Right.
Can I step back too and just raise this notion too? I mean, these goals that we have for this year, I kind of see as, what's the word I want to use? Sort of interim goals, because ultimately, once we do a visioning process,
Right.
I mean, I think, these are goals that are sort of, you need to do no matter what.
it'll be competitive.
Vision or no vision, but going forward, I think once the visioning process happens, that's what, everything operates off of that. Our goals will be to serve that vision. So, I guess what I'm saying now is that the void of that, it is a little challenging. Some of these things are kind of operational, we understand that these are deficiencies now, vision or no vision, but we should just keep that in mind, that there'll be a bigger purpose to this, I think, down the road.
Well, these
And-
will
and-
enable us to accomplish the vision,
Right.
because if you have chronic turnover, you're never going to get your
Yeah.
vision accomplished.
Exactly.
Because the second that you get staff excited, moving in a certain
Foundational.
direction, then you have the staff turnover, now you gotta start. If you're really gonna be a progressive, innovative school district, that means that we're gonna be doing things that most other school districts in the end, we're gonna be ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah.
So to start losing staff after you've invested so heavily, in preparing them in order to be able to deliver this type of an education for our kids is a huge loss to us. So without having these strategies in place now, we're setting ourselves up for failure when we get to that point. So, visioning is next year. We know we can't bite that off without having good networks, within our community, which is another part of our goal, the communication piece. Being able to, retain and hire high-quality staff is integral to our success. You cannot have a 20% turnover ratio in your professional staff and get anywhere. Even if we didn't have a vision, you can't even get to some kind of low-level matrix for what you want for your kids. So these things are absolutely critical and foundational to us being able to move this district
Right.
forward in the way that we want to get there. So
And that's
our work this
nuts and
year is
bolts.
stabilization. It's really putting these pillars in place so that we have a foundation with which to launch. And it's necessary. It's not, it really isn't busy work. It's integral to our future.
Well said. Any other comments on Elizabeth's? Okay. All right.
I have
And
mine.
again, this is first go. We'll,
Yeah.
This is you.
Yep.
these down, but
Mine was the entry plan goal, and I just said, assist Superintendent Givens with the delivery of the Newmarket School District entry plan by spring 2020. During the fall and winter, the school board will work with the SAU staff to create various opportunities for the superintendent to engage with and learn from representatives from all the stakeholder groups in town.
Perfect.
I know.
That's perfect.
Oh, way to blow us out.
Thanks.
Well, all right. Drop the mic,
There's always one of these. in every-
I didn't say anything!
It's always the shining student.
so,
Not me.
thanks, Tim. This is great. And,
And so that helps us with the next time. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Like,
I did not say that. But I think going along, Mike, with you just saying about the visioning, if we are working to engage the community in these ways, then that goes right into engaging them to help with the visioning process. They're engaged, they're excited.
they'll want to participate. Absolutely. And I can't emphasize how important and thankful I am. Did I say that right? I'm thankful, and this is the entry plan is super important in my mind, because if we don't know what we've got, and we don't,
Yep.
and Susan's not comfortable understanding, what's here, I mean, how can we possibly be proposing changes, to things or substantial changes? So I think that's, and as a board, I think, we need to defend that, and we need to make sure that to the extent we can help Susan not get bogged down in other areas.
Yeah.
And, that she's able to complete that, cause I think without that, we're gonna be behind on getting to that vision piece, right?
And I think if people, as her schedule allows, see her out and about and engaging her, they will understand that. And we have to defend it, you're right, when we come, but I think having her visible in the community will make a difference in that way too. So we'll have to talk about
Defend
that.
it meaning support it, not,
Right,
not, yeah.
right, not negative
Yeah, yeah,
defend,
yeah, yeah.
engage them in it.
There you go. All right. Is that all of them? Excellent. So, we'll work on these, we'll be some further discussion, we'll come back to them at the next meeting. But this is a good start. In part, my waning vision, I gotta get some glasses. I skipped over the school, and I was so excited to get to the goals. So I skipped over the school board committee reports. Al, how's the building doing?
Building's doing great. Susan could perhaps give more detail than I can, but from a building standpoint, we met all of our objectives in the elementary school. I wouldn't give us 100%, but I'd give us a 97 plus, Susan.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really well done. And
It's done.
done. And,
Punch
you know,
lists,
there's gonna be
There's still a punch
touch
list.
up stuff, but
That's where it's at. It's-
magnificent
yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Junior, senior high school, again, magnificent job. I went over there Friday before we were gonna open on, no, Saturday before we were gonna open on Monday, and spoke with Danny, and he was there alone, sitting in his chair reading the newspaper. I probably shouldn't say that, but he was, which gives you some indication of how well things went
Yeah.
there as well. So,
I was amazed by how large the middle school classrooms are and how much light there is in those rooms. It's amazing.
It's just so nice.
So we're gonna see it shortly after the end of the
Yes.
meeting, we'll take a tour.
Yep.
Thanks, Alan. I was pleasantly, informed that the traffic patterns have worked out. I mean,
Yep.
those are things that were the engineers, and the staff and the administration were involved in putting together. You just don't know how things are gonna work until they actually work, actually work. And from what I'm gathering that and I actually experienced it myself, I dropped my son off and it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no delay, there were no backups out on 152. It's much, more efficient. You don't have kids crossing the parking lot. Just, night and day difference
Yeah.
in terms of pickup and drop off, so.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a backlog in the afternoons. But, some of this is to be expected, just our bus routes have been adjusted based on some new software, so that also has to work its way out. And, of course, parents typically drop off their kids the first week more frequently than they do thereafter.
Yeah.
Some of that is children have anxiety, and to reduce that, the parents will oftentimes, eliminate the bus transportation part and take the students here. So that's all very, very typical. But I think all in all, we felt like we had an excellent school opening this year. And I mean, there's some challenges certainly at the junior, senior high school. As I said in my letter to parents, that we're under construction. And, when you're under construction, there's, you have to be flexible, and you can't anticipate, sometimes that you're gonna lose your phones momentarily and then they're gonna come back on, or, the heating as it's turned on, or the air conditioners when they're turning them on, may not operate at optimal levels, and we have to make those adjustments. But the facilities are beautiful. Our staff is very excited about being in their spaces, those that are there, and those that aren't, see that, there's light in front of us. And, in a few short months, we will all be in our new building, and that's just very exciting. So I would say yes, everybody's given their best efforts, the custodians, the IT department, Ekman, the administrators, the teachers have
this
been
week,
super.
yeah.
I mean, the amount of effort it took to open school this year, I can't even express, how grateful I am to the staff for their willingness to just dig deep and pitch in and be good sports about it. Having everything in boxes and in disarray, a week before we had kids arriving can be mentally disturbing. And, there was a lot of effort that went into making sure we could open as smoothly as possible for kids. And for any parent out there that had a little hiccup, in the process, we certainly did our level best, and we'll continue to try to improve as we move forward. So
we've decided to hold off until the schools are completed for any kind of ceremony. I think, I'd just like to say that, and I'm speaking from the building side, I'm not speaking from the teacher side or principals or anyone else. Julianne, who was the project manager for the elementary school, went above and beyond any project. I think both of them, she and Danny, are doing a great job. But she's gone, and I think from the board standpoint, we ought to send a note to John. And I'm sure she would appreciate it. But again, I can tell you from a professional standpoint, I've never seen two people more dedicated. They're on weekends, they've got smiles on their faces. There was never a problem if they foisted off on somebody else. So I'd like to make a recommendation that the board somehow recognize Julianne.
If at the board's pleasure, I'll take a stab at drafting a letter. Is that good?
Sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. Good suggestion.
I think along those lines too, I'd also like to float out that we had our leadership team meeting earlier today, and we've selected a date to have the public come in and take tours
Oh,
of
good.
the
Oh,
elementary
good.
school. So that would be the Saturday, the 28th, and we're gonna have the school council involved in giving the tours, so this
Awesome.
is just a little preview. We also talked about then setting a date now for when we'd have high school tours, and we'd like to do it, I'm calling them town meetings, but I don't know if that's the correct term. But I know that,
That's a good term, I like that.
is it town meeting? That's what I'm used to calling it, but to have some tours done in advance of the opening session.
Oh, you mean deliberative? Yeah.
Is that,
In March.
is that what you
Yes.
call it, town deliberative session?
Mhm.
So to have students give tours of our school in March, it will be substantially complete or close to substantially complete by then. And we just thought since they were coming out, and also it would give an incentive to come out to the meeting.
Yeah.
Especially since they take place there, that's perfect.
Yes.
It's the 28th.
September 28th.
September 28th, we're gonna do the elementary school, more information to follow. I'll put a little information out on the blog and send that out to the
Elementary
parents
school.
once we
Yep.
finish organizing
People are gonna be
ourselves around
excited
that.
about that.
And then I wasn't sure, we thought it was the third week of March that deliberative session occurs, but when I was looking at that budget schedule to try to pin it down on here, I didn't see that date yet.
Yes, the deliberate session is in February, and then the voting day is in March.
Okay.
Yes, so it's the voting date. We were trying to, because substantial completion is really April, so we didn't want to, do it too early. So we felt that the principals thought that it was the third week of March typically, third Saturday in March is,
Yeah, that's the vote, so the vote.
March 10th.
okay.
Yeah, March 10th.
So we would say March 10th, that's a Saturday, so we would time it so that,
Well, this
It's a Tuesday. March 10th is a Tuesday.
So that's
Oh.
voting.
Voting.
So
Okay.
I'm assuming that the deliberative is gonna be on the 22nd of February. And I'm
First
sure
or, it's the 1st or 8th of February.
Okay, first or eighth.
whenever that is, we can
The 1st or 8th of
solidify
February.
whatever that date is,
Tours.
even if we're not 100% complete, we'll be
Close.
close.
Alright.
Yes.
And then you'll have the ceremony. My understanding is that then we wanted to have a ceremony maybe at the opening of school the following year, where you do a dedication and all of that, the following fall. But this will give people kind of a preview
Yeah.
and make them feel good about the investment that they've made in education for their students.
Yep.
Yep. Good. So that's the building report. Elizabeth, you had a budget committee.
We had an SST meeting, but neither Susan nor I can meet that, so, and I'm gonna switch that over to Jen if that's okay with the rest of the board.
Fine with me?
Alright, so,
Which one?
on SST.
SST? SST.
So I'll send Penny a note so she can send them a note. Okay. And you can get starting in the emails. And then I did have a budget meeting. There were a lot of questions about shared services and what has been happening. I tried to fumble my way through it. I did okay. But I think, what I wish I had said would, and I think, Zach and I did say that, we're going to have a meeting,
Joint.
obviously.
Joint meeting.
Joint meeting.
And, we would be able to explain it better the next time we sat down, cause I didn't have all the information, but I did say that we are now currently looking for a BA, and the town, Zach said the town does have a BA. So that
Okay.
was that, but I felt like I fumbled my way through that. And one of the things I said to Mike was I think I'm gonna start taking, maybe before I have a meeting, reaching out and saying anything that I need to say at the budget meeting. They don't typically ask me anything, but I think that with all the changes happening right now, that there'll be more
Okay.
asked of me.
Mhm.
I just wanna be better prepared.
Thank you. Taylor?
Yeah, so, students are really excited.
Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me, Taylor. We had a CIP meeting.
Oh,
Wow.
We had a CIP meeting this week. And the schedule has been published, and I think, were you guys on it? Any of the school board members? Susan, you got it. And let me give you a little bit of, just an overview. The forms have been sent to the departments already. The forms and spreadsheets are to be submitted back to the committee on 9/6, which is tomorrow. The following week, there are going to be tours of the facilities for new members of the CIP group, of which there are 2. And those, I think, have already been arranged. Is that right? There's a date for the school one, so.
Okay. Greg must
Okay.
be attending to that. Assuming. I've not,
Okay, so just be aware
okay.
that it's gonna, if it hasn't come to you, I think you were on the distribute, but anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
I
then-
receive a lot of information, so being new, I have no context for it. So when something's sent to me with a bazillion people, I don't know if they're asking me to do something or I'm just being copied.
Okay,
I can't
well,
tell,
that's
because
why
I
I'm-
get tons of emails, so
that's
if
why
there's
I'm giving
something
the
that's
update.
specific to me, then it'd be
Okay.
good to know that it's not just copying me, it's actually somebody's looking for me to do
So
something.
are you aware that that the forms and spreadsheets are due tomorrow for CIP?
I don't even know what they look like.
Okay?
Remember, she can only work on the information that she was given. That
It's
this
been,
is-
well, I'm just, I
Yeah,
don't wanna
I-
get into the what's
yeah.
and wherefores. The presentations to the CIP committee are gonna be made on the 18th and 19th
Oh,
September. And the 18th, if you, is probably, the schools is gonna be 15 minutes. But all the other department heads are gonna come in, fire department and DPW and code enforcement and planning are all gonna come in and make their CIP presentations. And we hope to be able to get through them one session. They're not real complicated. Now that we've got the new facilities plan, it's very easy, because all we're doing basically is taking the facility plan that's been put together and then looking at things like automobiles and fire department stuff. And so on that date, I am not gonna be available. I can't remember who my alternate is for CIP.
I don't know if we even had one.
We did.
I was before.
Were you?
Didn't I go?
I can't remember.
I'm checking calendars, see if I can.
I know that Greg's wasn't here today and is not here tomorrow. Would it be appropriate for me to maybe try to find those add alts that you had referred to?
No, that
Would
has nothing to do with it
Oh,
at
okay. I guess, I just don't know what CIP even is then.
all. Okay. I can help you
If
with
it's
that.
not capital improvement, I don't
Yeah.
know what the
Yes.
It
acronym
is.
is. Okay.
Yeah, and I can help you with that. I'd be glad to spend 15 minutes with you and
Yeah.
go through it, because I think you and I together could just,
Yeah, okay.
so much of the CIP, that- I don't want to get into it in detail, but one of the reasons school has a CIP is you can't take impact fees unless you have a capital improvement program. That's required by state law. We've been taking money out of the out of the capital improvement program for the school. So we have to have a CIP. Even though the CIP for the school is funded through trusts, funds, and the operating budget. So it's not as overwhelming as it sounds, but we do have to present it. And I'll give you the one from last year.
Oh, okay. I remember,
Good.
That would be
okay.
good.
And I think maybe we can just, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't, do we have an alternate?
I don't,
I don't know, Al, frankly, if we have an alternate or not, so you can't make it,
I
you're looking
didn't
for
know.
somebody else to go on,
There's two choices.
yeah,
It's gonna be televised. I'd be glad to review it, review the television aspect of it. Or the alternate can go.
what needs to, what does the person need to do? Do they need to present?
No, the person on the CIP committee, listens to, will take in the CIP requests for the community and look at the span of CIP requests for the community. The CIP committee then discusses what they, after the presentations, discusses which ones they would prioritize. And then that recommendation goes to the superintendent and the town administrator.
So what would the person need to do, just attend and observe?
Attend and listen
I got
and draw an opinion.
What time is the meeting at?
4:30
I can go on the 19th.
on the 18th and possibly on the 19th. But I don't think it's gonna be I think the 18th is gonna do it.
I can do it,
Would you?
Still up in the air.
if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Then the next week is the discussions, and I will do on the 25th, and I'll just get together with you
Okay.
and get your feedback from the CIP.
Is it downstairs?
Yes.
Okay.
And it will be, all the meetings will be televised,
Some discussions in terms of,
the whole thing, the department manager's presentations. No different than it's been done in the past. The big difference, as I say, without taking more of your time, is we do have a facilities plan.
okay?
I will send an email to Greg, I mean, and see if maybe he has submitted something, I don't know. I'll send an email to him.
I don't think Greg would have anything to do with it, right?
CIP? Gosh, I would hope so.
Oh, actually, yeah.
He does. He did last year,
Yeah,
or 2
this
years
is-
ago.
It
On
was
both
my-
Greg-
sides.
Yeah.
Greg,
Facilities,
I was
right?
under the impression that was something
Greg
he was.
has everything to do with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I would think so. So he
Ta-
might be done, I'll just send
Yeah,
him an email.
town and, school.
Students were like really excited to see the new school, and they saw that like the better days are ahead of us. That's the quote like student council has been using a lot. They were getting lost a lot, but that was a good kind of loss. They were really excited to see all the new school, like the new school, and then also like they were very flexible and very open to this new school. So that was really good. And then, so sports. Soccer has been doing really well. The boys and girls varsity won against Epping away in their last game, and the JV girls and boys won against Oyster River High School as well. So, and then the girls and boys varsity have a game this Friday actually at 4. The boys are at 4:30 and the girls are at 5:30, and it's home. Also, homecoming's coming up. The dance will be the 28th.
Of September?
Yes. And then, and then we're announcing the theme next Friday, so that's really exciting. And then one last thing, we had a fire drill today during BT block, so, yeah.
How'd that go?
It went pretty smoothly. I feel students had a hard time figuring out where to go, but I think it was all worked out today, so.
Great. Okay, thank you. We're back on discussion items, the budget process. And draft budget calendar, which we have in our materials.
We had mentioned, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were gonna be here, so we'll have to share. So the first, the draft that was put in your packet, Lisa had left some notes with Mary about what your process has been historically, or at least it was last year. And Mary put together a calendar based on your process last year. I took a glance through and had a conversation with Mike. So there's one that in your packet that one says alternative.
Yeah, there's one.
Oh, there's one more. Oh,
Here, Al, I think you need one.
actually,
Thank
you can,
Yeah.
I'll
Okay, now-
share with, I just pulled the one out. So, I looked at it and I saw a few challenges, based on, the need to have data available in order to put a budget proposal together, and how could I, maybe adjust your budget calendar to reflect some important data points that, you know, I'm not really clear how you can create a real budget proposal with meaning if you don't have data like your enrollment projections available. So when I looked at what you had done, not you, but let's say, just say the district, how budgets had been prepared in recent years, it was done based on what's called a run rate approach. What a run rate approach is that you look over the last 3 years of your spending, and then you just say, well, on average we spent this, and so this is what we're gonna spend next year. But it's not tied to programmatic needs of students. And so although there is a need for faculty every year, and that you will likely need to spend some money on textbooks, and you're certainly gonna need some general supplies, the faculty that you need is based on what your student needs and programming are, and that does change. And so having enrollment information is really integral to being able to forecast what your programmatic needs for those kids are, and therefore what the cost of that is. So, the alternative budget, what I attempted to do, however imperfectly it is I tried to look with my limited understanding of what kind of town level drop dead dates are, and tried to keep those in place, and then alter the dates prior to December 9th, in order to be able to put together a budget a recommended superintendent's budget that was actually based on programmatic needs instead of run rate. And so why is that important? Not only does it influence staffing, but like you've heard that we're trying to align our curriculum to next generation science standards. Well, when you're realigning your curriculum, then it has a monetary impact on your budget, because you have to buy resources in order to support that. If you're not doing your budgeting based on these programmatic needs, and you're just saying, well, we had, $15,000 in furniture replacement last year, we're just gonna put $15,500 this year because of inflation. Well, do we really need, replacement furniture if we've just completed a building project? Maybe we need to reallocate those resources to curriculum and instruction. And so that's just a simple example of why a run rate approach to budgeting, in my opinion, doesn't really doesn't target the resources to support your educational goals. So this is my attempt to try to get into maybe a little different process than you've had in the past, that would allow us to be able to provide you with a meaningful budget that's, addresses our priorities and our needs, as opposed to just a financial computation approach to budgeting. So what are the biggest differences? So what that means is that in the alternative budget, and I'm just gonna focus on that because you're familiar with what you've done in the past, so I'm just gonna go over what it might look like if this feels comfortable, and you don't have to make a decision today. I'm just gonna talk you through it, and then you can think about it, and if we can come to a budget proposal or calendar at the next meeting, that would be great. So, so here's, we're September 5th, that kicks off the process either way. And you have received a draft. And then, from there, we would talk about, some of our priorities, which we already have. We wanna go through a visioning process. Well, that's gonna have some financial implications for us. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to have more if we're spending less in another area, but if we're saying that's a priority for us, visioning, then when I send out these priorities to the administrative staff in the district and I say, here's our top 3 priorities for the year, here's your enrollment projections for the year, we know what the graduation requirements are, we know what the requirements are in terms of curriculum, some curriculum alignment, submit to me a budget proposal that addresses those needs in the context of these priorities and our enrollment. And so then I would give them a couple of weeks to work with their staff to provide me with that, and then we would meet as a leadership team to understand it, so get a district level view of all of our needs. And then, of course, we'll probably have, it'll probably be, much more expensive perhaps than what you've seen in the past, but then, then I can say to you, these are the kinds of things, board, that, we feel are important. And, we can have a little conversation at our level. I can go back and then we'll have another administrative, not at board level, but administrative,
Right.
vetting process. And then we would present to you our best, proposal, knowing we can't have everything, based on your priorities and our priorities, what might that look like? Then I would present to you the superintendent's budget, and then in an overview format, you would have that to read, and then we would have 2 deliberative sessions where, you can ask for additional information, and we can talk about, does this, is this plausible, if there's options or choices we have to make, then we'd have those conversations about what the impact of those choices are. And then we'd come to a kind of a consensus in which you would then adopt a budget in whatever version that is, and then that would go, I guess, to the town at that
The budget
point,
committee,
the budget committee. The only thing that, so that's what I attempted to do here. Again, these are really condensed
Yeah.
timelines. I mean, I've really never encountered a budget development process this early. Another thing that was concerning to me is to even suggest to my educational leaders in the district that they should change their focus away from opening of school. Opening of school is a 3-week process. It isn't that the kids arrive. We have 36 openings here. We have hired about 28 staff members that all need to be supported in the first 3 weeks. We have kids that have shifted from elementary up into the middle school. We're under a construction project. There's a lot that goes into settling into your school year. And typically it takes about 3 weeks to work out all those bugs. And in my mind, that is, priority 1. And so to even contemplate asking them to think about a budget that's gonna be implemented a year from now, when one, we don't even know what our enrollments are going to be for this year, never mind project for the future. And then take our eye off the most important ball, which is, providing the best experience we can for our kids, also just is not, educationally sound. So this would allow us to not have to approach our administrators to start to look at the following year until we get really situated. Open houses are over. We've established our open houses, open house dates. The schedule, works around that. So what it would look like in terms of instruction is that all 3, so our elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school will all have their open houses finished by October the 2nd. And so if we can get the enrollment, so your October 1, why that's so important is that's when your official enrollments are reported to the state. So if we can at least have our October 1 enrollment information, in order to do a projection for the following year, then at least there's continuity of your data point from which you're projecting from, that's based on what's been reported to the state for the last 10 years. You can get better data and a better projection from that. So this schedule, really better aligns with, some of what's happening on the school side of the equation. And, I'm hoping that, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but if we can, do something that's similar to what I'm proposing here, I think that you will be pleased with the quality of information that you get, and that we'll be able to explain to you why we're asking for what we're asking, and it's not just gonna be, a mathematical computation approach to budgeting and allocating resources. So, that's my,
I'm excited to hear that, Susan. My only concern is there always seems to be a tight time frame to get stuff to the budget committee. And since we're backing up about a week, is that gonna be okay?
I can call Dan and I can start that.
Or have they
not
even
Dan,
communicated
I'm
with
sorry,
you?
it's
Maybe
Nikki.
it's not, maybe the 27th is not, but it always feels like it's before Thanksgiving when that happens,
yeah, that's, yeah.
which is tight.
We
I mean,
actually put it, didn't we, we put it off last year, and this might explain it a little bit better. The way Susan just explained it, I need my staff to 3 weeks for school. I mean, if we sit down with Mickey and discuss it,
and it may not even be,
work.
it may be a non-issue, but that's the only thing that I had a question about.
You know, and another option too, first of all, Susan, thank you for this, and thanks
Yes.
to Mary for putting all this together, it's very helpful. But second of all, a sort of an observation of mine in the, I guess this will be the fourth now, how many, we've been here how long?
Maybe
We've been
fifth.
through a few
This is your
budgets.
fifth.
So I found the process to be, and this isn't critical of any particular person, but it just seems like it was fundamentally different than what Susan explained insofar as it was sort of out of our control. It
Yeah.
was 80% salaries, which is locked in, and then there's supplies, and then there's other stuff, and then there was an increase. There wasn't really anything for us to add value to evaluate. Yet, what we did was, we met and met and met and met and met, and, I kind of thought, I was thinking, why can't we come in on a Saturday and get this out, and if we have follow-up questions, we'll have.
I think we did do that
We'll have
once.
another meeting, but we had, I don't know, how many meetings, maybe 3 or 4, and
Oh, I
it just,
think
it's
we
like.
had-
We had more.
what did
We had-
We had a million.
We go through supplies and I have comments. Number one, the only conflict I see is the December 4th, removing the December 4th. You're missing, let me make sure. The school board budget to the town budget committee is December 4th. And they're asking for it November 27th. So I'm with Elizabeth. If they say fine, let's go to the 4th.
Which one are you looking at?
I'm going down to, the proposed is that we get the budget to the budget committee by December 4th.
Yep.
They're, on the other sheet, it's showing getting it to them on November 27th. And if they're fine with a week later, the rest of it, I would just go in your judgment.
Yeah.
I think it all makes,
Yeah.
Good find out.
Why
Good
would I-
find
I
out.
think you'll find the process to be much more meaningful,
Right.
and
and I agree with Mike, I mean, I really don't care how many more additions of something is going into the library. 80, more than 80% of the budget is people, and that's what we're gonna probably talk about.
Contract-driven people.
Unless there's some big software thing you're gonna do, or,
right, but to do that in context with, this is when our enrollment is happening,
Well,
provide you
we
with
did
some.
have that.
are you doing gross enrollment? Or are you picking enrollment by subject?
Well, you can't really do it that way, so what you
Right.
do is you start off with your enrollment projections by grade level.
Yeah.
Right,
And then based on that, I provide that to the building level staff. Now, we pull out of that the kids that are outplaced, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
then
okay.
Erica will do her piece, so it's how many students are we going to have, do we anticipate
Right.
having? And if you're using, forecasting techniques, like, looking at 3-year averages,
Yeah, yeah.
rolling 3-year averages, rolling 10-year averages, and you're comparing that to what else you know is going on, kind of, for in-migration, out-migration, you make some
Gotcha.
adjustments there. You can get pretty close to those numbers. I mean, my numbers, when I've projected them in the past, have been pretty close. Now, I knew the school district really well. I don't know you as well, so there might be but there won't be that many missteps. So then what happens is you say to the principals, this is what you're gonna have, and anticipate having this in kindergarten, first and second grade. And then they can tell you, how many staff do you need? So, for example, and then I can say, okay, clearly, this is what your enrollments are shaping up to look like. If it changes, then I come back to you and say, hey, we had a new development come in and I didn't know, or a family of 15 moved in, or that probably isn't gonna happen, but you know what I'm saying? And then we can, make some adjustments from that, but at least it's in context with the student population
Right.
that we have. And, doing run rate for things like special education just doesn't make any sense,
It's
I mean, based on
surprising.
what the
It's
kids'
surprising
needs
to
are.
hear that that's what was happening, because I definitely know that we looked at enrollment. So it's just kind of like, oh, were we just messing up totally?
Yeah,
It
no,
was it was a guesstimate, right? Like, we were always guessing, because we don't even know who's coming in for our.
No, but I mean, we had enrollment stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But
But
we've known gross numbers
But it's just
for,
because you can't. You
25
have to have it in
years,
context,
yeah.
or none of it makes
Yeah.
any sense.
So you're saying gross, I'm saying by grade level,
yeah, that's why I asked the question,
And
yeah.
then, and so from there, then you can say, okay, well, we have an incoming freshman class coming up from the 8th grade of X. So that tells you if it's a big class and you've been running 80 and now you're
Yeah.
gonna have 100, well, you should expect to have a textbook or resource request from me, because you'll know why. We have to add X number more resources because we have a bubble that's coming through our school district by this grade, certain things like that. It grounds what we're asking for, and I just don't know how I can't comfortably, personally, go before the community and ask for money that I can't justify, and tie to some kind of,
Yeah.
need, so.
Yep.
So could we look at maybe a Saturday and just banging out like a November 2nd?
I
or is
tried that. I have a personal commitment on the Saturday that would work best is the 23rd, and my son's grandmother on my the paternal side is turning 90, and we're having a big surprise birthday party, and I'm not gonna miss that.
No.
She's a
You don't have
dear
You
woman.
can have it during the budget session.
Yeah.
No?
Well,
Yeah.
see, I have to travel for it, so so I'm not here that weekend.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
And
This is a
November
great place
How
to
far, how
celebrate.
far away is it?
With all the friends and family.
A lot of fun here in the
Well,
town hall
if you're
chambers.
willing to fund that, I'll flirt my in-laws there.
Oh, wow. That was-
But, yeah, so that would have been the 23rd, which would have been
'cause
ideal.
November 2nd wouldn't work for you? Like a November,
Well, November 2nd would be before I even give you my budget proposal.
true that, okay.
We'll make it.
So
It'll happen.
Yeah.
So another option in just.
the following year, we can do that. It's just a one-time
Yep.
personal,
Not worried about
I
it.
just can't miss it. I love the woman
Oh,
dearly.
yeah, don't miss it, but you can't miss it. But the thing is that we could also be flexible and maybe come in earlier and just do a.
Yeah.
Because the drip just drives me nuts, and it seems
Oh,
like
it's
a waste of time.
painful.
And so I'll
It is.
explain why I have it a week apart, because in my experience, when you use this type of a process, I'm gonna give you the proposal, you're gonna go through and read, you're gonna have narratives, you're gonna have all kinds of information. Less this year than you will in the future as I get a better grip on. This is really early for me to do this, but you get probably different types of information in different format than you have before. But you'll have questions. And so you're gonna say, we have questions, and then I will bring answers, you can ask me in public, but I can get more information, we can do some analysis, we can crunch some things. I need a little bit of time with the SBA to be able to gather that and do analysis for you, so that it informs our conversation the next time, so
Right.
that you're not just, listening, it's an interactive,
Yep.
process that we'll go through, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Good.
we'll go with the second one, the alternative?
And then just check with whoever that person is, and I'm happy to sit with whoever that person
Vicky?
is
All right.
and explain. And the other thing, I didn't know that I was shifting that, but I thought, if they're getting everybody else's budget, you can't read all of them at once.
I don't
So-
think it's gonna be a problem.
So if ours is a week late, but we're doing all the vetting, at a level that's different than what they're gonna do for the other departments, to give them it on Wednesday for their following week, I thought, that can't be too big of an ask, but.
Elizabeth, could you, if this makes sense, show that to Mickey?
Mickey,
See
yeah.
if, before our next meeting, and he's the chair of the
That would be
building
great.
committee, and then
Yeah.
see if he's good with that
I
schedule.
will, I'll
If not-
actually give him a call.
And we'll keep track this year of what worked, what didn't, you know, if we wanna have the Saturday the following year, I won't have that commitment, you know, whatever way you wanna do it.
Yeah.
I've always done Saturday deliberation meetings, because then town folk and parents can actually come and participate, because it's not, you know, conflicting typically with other
I think we
meetings.
should make every birthday after 90 at least, right? I mean, the next year will be on a Sunday, won't it?
It could be.
Yeah, so we can meet on Saturday.
Yeah.
No. So this is great, thank you so much
Yeah.
for that took a lot of thought and effort, so.
Do I show Mickey both or just?
I would show him
The
this
alternative.
alternative.
Yeah.
That's what I
Please,
thought.
yeah. So, the joint school board and town council agenda is our next topic, and, oh, so, I had just one sort of addition to this that I thought, I mean, I know we're doing lots of tours of the school, but I think it's really important that we, offer the opportunity for the council to get in there.
Yeah.
I don't think they've all seen it, like, I talked to Tony the other day, she hasn't even seen the new gym.
No.
So it's
no.
important that I think we do that, and maybe we can do it, there's no time for this meeting. I think it's gonna be at 7, our typical time, maybe we could do a tour at like 6 of the buildings, and then come back for the joint meeting. Other than that, do anybody else have comments on the agenda items, or? I think the 5th item, safety, would need to be a non-public.
Right.
And maybe that's something we could do as we walk through the building. Would you have, Officer Stevens there, like the SRO's there?
And we
Maybe-
could talk to that, we could maybe touch base with Chief True
Yeah.
and see, see if he's available. And maybe the SROs, if that's appropriate. I think Officer Kukish gave us a presentation last time.
Yes.
Al, the CIP, would that be far enough along, so it would make any sense?
It's already scheduled, the tour, for the CIP people.
No, I mean it's the 4th item on
The town- the
proposed
ch-
agenda for
The joint meeting.
will that process be far enough along that there can be an update?
Let me come back to answer that for you in just a minute.
Okay. Any other questions on the
Let me see.
meeting agenda?
Do you want me to mention anything about facilities?
I think I mentioned that the 25th, the committee's gonna be in session.
On the 25th?
Yep.
What time do you have
4 till late.
till late? Will it go past 6?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, for sure,
Oh, really?
because it's not getting together till 4. These are all the department presentations, the deliberations.
And they're gonna have somebody from the council there, I presume.
And us.
Alright, well, we might have to alter the time of that meeting then, if, Al, can you find out what time, how long does that meeting usually go?
Just depends.
Would it, okay,
It just really depends.
it starts at 3,
At 4:30.
4:30, okay.
This begins at what time?
Well, we're gonna do a tour at 6, and then the meeting would be at 7. Joint meeting.
Let me
We can always, I suppose we could flip that, we could do the meeting and then go do the tour. I don't think we're gonna take up oodles of time discussing these agenda items. So maybe we could meet, 7 to 8, and
Could we even meet?
No, I'm confused. So the CIP committee is meeting on the 25th at 4:30 in the afternoon
Yeah.
to deliberate over the submittals from the town and the school.
Mhm.
And you would like to include what?
I'm sorry, what I'm talking about here, Al, on September 25th is when we would have that joint town
Yep.
school board meeting, and the meeting was originally gonna start at 7 PM.
Yeah,
I was thinking we'd do a tour at 6 before with the town council and us of the school so they could see
Yeah.
it. But now what I'm saying is if that's gonna be a conflict with your meeting,
I think what I'll
That-
do,
that-
I
the
think what I'll
CIP
do
is
is
that-
endeavor to change our meeting.
either do that or we can maybe do the tour after. So
Okay.
So we start at 7 and maybe, yeah, I don't know if you wanna be in meetings all for 6 hours, but,
I don't.
yeah.
Let me find out.
Okay.
Then, so the question I need to find out is, if we meet at 4:30, is it likely we'll be done in 2 hours? If it is, there's no conflict.
Okay.
If it's gonna go on for 4 hours, then we need to change the CIP, or we're not gonna change the town. The CIP needs to change. Got it.
Okay.
So maybe we
Thanks.
could even have our meeting, the joint meeting in the school, the elementary school library, do the tour, and if you're saying we're
Good idea,
yeah,
yeah.
And maybe what I can do is, I think the 26th was an open day for everybody. All of us knowing that we aren't gonna probably need it. I know what to do.
Great, any other thoughts on that agenda?
no,
Now we'll move on to the, follow-up, we need, since I was not there, we didn't get to everything we had hoped to get to on that last, retreat, so we need to, revisit that and set up another time to finish that,
that could be January.
hopefully not,
Well, I mean,
what's that?
you get budget, you have everything coming up, like,
Yeah.
I think that we can look at our reader
Can I
and say
keep
maybe
this?
we could, I mean, it's unfortunate,
I think it's important.
Let me see if I'm putting notes that mean anything.
You know what I'm saying?
I do, I just
Well,
don't know
let me see if I
when.
can find mine. I'll
No,
stop.
you're good,
I'm
you're
gonna
good.
stop being a baby here.
No, you're
I
good.
don't think it, I mean, is this a 3-hour?
I think
session?
they're,
I
they're
don't think
worth
so.
the time,
We
yeah.
had
2
we
hours.
had the policy, the scenarios, and then
Yeah.
from that, the
Ground rules.
protocols and the ground.
Is
So
this,
2 hours?
2 hours?
I hate rushing it, that's the thing,
Yeah,
like,
I hear
once
you.
you get going, we really need a lot of help, yeah.
Excellent too.
Yeah.
They've been great opportunities to communicate and learn from each other and learn from Susan, I think. And I welcome, and I think this sort of necessity to have it sooner than later is that we need the ground rules on which we're going to conduct ourselves as a board, interacting with Susan, interacting together to move forward as we get into this busy time. So it's sort of a tough thing, but it's just the reality that we find ourselves in.
Foundational.
Mm-hmm.
But I get you.
Oh,
on schedule.
I am gonna be a baby and keep it.
Good.
Is
I have mine
this-
at home.
Is this something we could come on an afternoon? What's people's preference? I mean, I know we like to avoid the weekends as much as we can, right?
Well, it's that favorite time of year, right, but,
Right.
As long as it's not on Sundays.
Yeah.
right, so,
On the other hand, if it works, it's whatever we want
Right.
to do, I guess. But I mean, I personally, I don't mind coming in on a Saturday first thing in the morning.
don't either.
I'm fresh.
Right.
And then have the rest of the day, I'd get here at 7 if people wanted to, or 8, or whatever's reasonable, or 9.
is the boat in now, the boat, association?
On the other hand, if that's not good for everybody, we could do, an afternoon time, a reasonable time, maybe 4.
When do you think, what date are you thinking about?
Well, I haven't got there yet, I just think, and I got my calendar open, but
Me
I'd
too.
like, we should do this in September for the reason Kim said. We need to sort of, have our signals down.
I can do the 14th or the 21st.
I can do the 14th or the 28th.
I can do any of those three. So the 14th seems to be one
I
that.
can't do the 14th, I can do the other ones.
21, I can do the 21st.
Jen can't do. You can only do
can't.
28, right?
What about the Thursday in between our meetings? I'm
The
saying that.
12th?
The 12th,
Mhm.
That would work
I
for
could do that, I could do that too.
I'm just saying, cause the Saturdays are probably tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do the 14th, somebody else can't, somebody
Yeah.
can't.
Mhm.
I
And
can- I
then
can
we're
do
at
the
the
12th.
28th, and then it's
I
kind
can
of,
do the 12th.
The 12th works for me.
Okay.
Can we do it a little,
Like what time? What time's best for folks?
do you wanna go in the same
Would-
place and have,
Do you have something, Jen, on that day?
I do, but, you know, it's one of those things that I think I can work around it. I think I have to show up, but then maybe, see if I can find.
Cause if not, maybe we could even do that Wednesday.
I can do Wednesday the 11th.
I can do that as well.
Al, does that work for you?
I don't have my,
Oh,
I'm gonna say yes.
Wednesday the 11th.
No, wait a minute.
No? Do we dare do it Friday the 13th?
I mean, I can do Wednesday the 11th if it were an afternoon,
No, wait a minute, we're talking about next
I'm
week. We're
available
talking about next week.
next week.
I'm leaving, on the 11th for a week. That's why I can't make that
Oh, okay.
CIP meeting.
Okay.
What about Tuesday evening, the 10th?
Tuesday?
Are you getting ready to leave, Al?
I'm gonna get killed if I do it.
Call her, ask her.
Well,
I'll,
would,
no, it's mother-in-law to the airport. I can hear it now.
oh yeah, I wouldn't. So, what about that following
Who
week?
turned 90, by the way.
When do you get back, Al?
I get back on, the 20th. I get back on the 20th. Call it the 21st.
Okay. What about that following week, the week of the 23rd?
How's
What?
everybody on the 24th?
Wide open.
That's Tuesday.
Yes,
yep, I'm good.
I can do the 24th.
I can.
I can.
I think I can do that too. I'm trying to think of,
So we'll have the
Night that we
24th
had
and the
the-
25th that week.
Oh, is
I
that an
know.
open house?
No, that's what I wanna go, do you mind if I
Oh.
run upstairs and
Nope, go
find
up.
the elementary
You might-
school open
yeah, you
house?
I
might-
have my
Right.
phone.
It's that week.
'Cause that's that week, right.
remember what the date was, but I have it in my office.
Can I borrow your phone for a second?
Yeah.
Let's,
It's dirty, Al.
let's do some work while
Yes.
we're waiting for, let's look at the minutes, for, July 27th, August 1st, and August 23rd.
What's the date? The 24th.
Right. And then we have the thing on the 25th too, but the 24th.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
So I'm going to need to abstain from August 23rd because I wasn't there, and I think, Al, you weren't there on the first retreat, July 27th.
That's
So
correct.
should we take them all separately, Mike?
Yeah. So
I
can we-
can't believe it. Oh, she doesn't know your number. She thinks
Oh.
you're
A robocall, call
a
right back,
robocaller.
call right back, she'll know.
just text her.
Oh, that's true too. Alright, so are you looking for a motion for July 27th, 2019 school board retreat meetings?
Meeting minutes, yes. to
So
approve.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any comments? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Hi. Hi, can you look at our personal calendar and find out if I'm available? Well, Kim said, call her again, she's bound to answer, so you can blame her. Good.
I didn't even say
On the
anything.
wait a minute, we're on TV, Kathy. Am I available on the 24th for a meeting? Anytime. Okay, so I can do a meeting. Okay,
Oh my
thank you.
goodness.
Yep, thanks.
Beautiful.
I forgot where.
There we go.
So what date?
24th.
Well, now
We just gotta make sure that the thing's not that night.
It might be
You
open
might have to
house.
dial her again.
Yeah.
So,
Forgot where.
let's move on to the August 1st, 2019 public and non-public minutes.
So I move that we approve the August 1st public and non-public school board meeting minutes.
All those in favor?
I'll second it.
Aye.
That's unanimous. And then finally, August 23rd, and I abstain.
You abstain. I make a motion to accept the August 23rd, 2019 school board retreat minutes. Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have the manifest?
Approve the minutes.
Oh, goody.
Oh,
Oh, Susan has it.
Okay,
So,
okay, so just, if you wanna make note,
Ah.
but these are, the elementary school date is gonna be, and we'll send out a note to parents soon, September 19th, just so you have this. And then
Okay.
junior high, we're tentative, but pretty sure it's gonna be October the 2nd, and senior high, October 1st.
it's a great way to spend my 25th anniversary. I couldn't think of anything more exciting.
Okay,
so the 24th
great.
of September would be.
so that would be okay.
Okay,
So
let's call it then.
Tuesday,
Yep.
September 24th.
At what time?
We could do 6 o'clock.
I'm losing it at 6. If we can go
I can do anything after 2. I'm booked up until 2 o'clock that day.
Okay, and I could be here at 3 o'clock.
Can we do it at 4?
That'll work for me.
So Tuesday, September 24th at 4?
Yep. Thank you.
And we'll know where we're to be whenever that's decided.
Yeah, do you want the place we were before, or what is your pleasure? I can have Penny.
Was that place good, or was it a good
It's-
place to meet?
It's nice and, it was quiet,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
it was easy.
Let's do it.
Or we can, I actually have that other place too, if you want me to try the other one. Actually, let me try the other one,
Okay,
it's cheaper.
I get you. Okay, true.
Okay.
Check them out.
Okay.
Thank you. So, then Susan, will you get an update on the audit for
Yes, so,
FY 19?
yes, so the audit process begins, at the end of June, really, and then they submit out, all kinds of requests for information, so, the business services side has been actively, busily working to close the fiscal year and get that information to, the auditing firm. Mary and I did, as I mentioned that I would, meet with the auditing firm to talk to them about, some of the areas, that the board wanted, and I wanted, them to pay particular attention to, and reviewed with them what their procedures would be in order to accomplish that. And so we set really clear expectations with them so that this year we are confident that you'll be receiving a comprehensive audit with a management letter that attends to any items related to internal control, segregation of duties, any other recommendations that they feel are important. Usually when you have a management letter, it also provides you with information about, up and coming changes to reporting requirements and all those types of things, so. Also, we looked to, see, we had been told that, you had a contract for the auditors in place that was active. We learned after the fact that that wasn't true, so we'll be going out to, bid for auditing services in the upcoming year. You have to, again, a lot of these things are cyclical, you have to, in order to get an auditing firm, you have to get out in front of when they've already booked up all their audits for the year, so the season for doing that is really, late winter, early spring. So Mary's making a lot of notes about, how we may want to, change our, request for proposal, to incorporate some of these standard practices that we're asking them to, apply this year, so that in the future that you will always be getting, comprehensive and thorough audit moving forward. So, the auditors have been in all week, this week, and Mary's, kind of supervising that. And the other part of it too is, in terms of, quality control, is that they'll go through their procedure, and then there's certain exiting, procedures that they're typically in place, where they sit down and they say, okay, we've gone through all of this. these are some of the questions that we have, and then you can provide them with additional supporting documentation, you know, or ask them, you know, questions about, you know, how they arrived at some of their conclusions, or if you're seeing something in practice that they haven't attended to, you can ask them to look at something a little, you know, deeper, just to make sure that, you know, everything's in order. So we have, you know, established those kind of protocols with them, and feel pretty confident that you'll get an audit that, you know, accurately reflects the current status of your business services. So that's kind of the update on that. If there was time and we were in a different time, you know, knowing that we didn't have it now, knowing that we didn't have a contract, then the recommendation would be to obviously move forward with that. Best practices that you know, you change auditors every 3 to 5 years. They've been in place for a little while. Not like 20 years or anything like that. You did change them. I think it was eight or so years ago.
They've been here for 7.
7 or 8 years ago. That sounds right. So, you know, it's time anyway. So, that's an example of a policy you might want to have. You know, in terms of, you know, frequency of audits, and you know, you're putting that into policy may ensure that in the future that you're clear about what your expectations are around that. And if there's any other pieces that you want to incorporate into that, that might be an idea. You know, maybe have it, I don't know, but I didn't see anything.
I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the update on that. Are there any
Great.
questions?
Yeah, just so folks know, when I think Penny presented me with a contract for this firm to sign it was at the opening day, I think it was last week, and I looked at it and I said, wait a second here. You know, we had talked as a group
Yeah.
that we weren't head over heels with this particular result recently, and that we may wanna take a look, but the process was already down the road at that point. They had already been requests for information. They were already, actively engaged in doing the background for the audit work. And the reality is, you just can't find somebody on a drop of a hat to come in and, hey, can you do this audit, as Susan said. So, I'm comfortable with, you know, that Susan's identified to them the problems that, or the issues that we would like to see addressed in this, you know, audit. So, I just wanted the board to know that background, and we'll, you know, look elsewhere and put it out to bid, you know, for the next round.
It's always good to get a good new set of eyes on things anyways. So it's not a matter of this is, you know, out in left field or anything like that. But again, you know, if you, my understanding is that for town meeting, you need to have audited financial statements and all of that available. And I don't think that you could ever meet that goal, given that, one, we're in the middle of it already, and two, everyone else is pretty much booked up by now because they're actively engaged in doing these
Right.
audits for all municipalities around, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Great. Any other on that issue? Okay, so, we need to approve the manifest, and we got some of those to sign before we leave.
Yes.
I find it distracting to try to sign them while we're talking, so I haven't yet myself.
There's also a report somewhere in the mix here that everybody needs to sign, I guess?
Yes, right here.
We've done, I think it's.
Okay.
Susan, can you just explain to us what those are so we're sure we're clear? I think I know, but just to make sure I don't. The
report you're saying-
reports.
That one, is the report that's sent into the state, that's an accounting of the activity. So you have your audited financial statements that are really focused towards banking, your
Okay.
bonds and all of that. These types of reports usually go up to the Department of Education, and they're accountability, reports.
Okay, that's what I
So
thought.
based on your financial, you know, activity for the year prior. So they
Okay.
track all of that. And then, you know, when you go on the website and you see how much is being spent per pupil and
Right.
various kids, that's where,
Okay, that's what I
this
thought.
is the source for that, information, so.
Okay.
the newbie.
Yep.
Um,
So here, I'll pass this.
yeah, I can do it if you want, or
I will look at
You
it.
sign in a different place on that particular report.
So right now, you just need, we're going to,
let's focus on, we're jumping around here. Can we focus, let's focus on the manifest, and can I have a motion to approve the manifest? Somebody wanna make a motion?
I think we need the,
Don't give that, Jen.
Yeah,
give
Jen,
that.
I'll do it. Well, Elizabeth just left you hanging. I move that we approve the total of all manifests of $2,799,525.86.
second.
Okay, if there's no comment, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, and, the last item on here is approval of a budget transfer request, and that was in the documents that Nick,
I think they're in the red one.
right here. Okay. So, there is a budget transfer request in the amount of $5,760, is that?
Yes, thank you.
Am I saying that correctly? So, and I'd just like entertain a motion to approve that budget transfer.
I make a motion to accept the budget transfer.
Any questions? Kim?
Just so we can say what it's for.
Go ahead.
My understanding is that the money for copier, the copier contract was approved in one line, but the money was in another line.
Okay.
So you're just transferring in between the two lines.
Okay, just to make sure that
Put it
people know what we're doing.
belongs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any others? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And,
Non-public.
yeah, let me just put this in so it doesn't get lost.
Everybody needs to go through these again. About half of them aren't signed, so please just
Yeah.
send them that way and
Did
review them.
everybody sign
Jen did not.
the edits in this folder?
I did not finish that either.
Okay. I don't know if there's any need to go in a non-public this evening.
No, this is the only thing on this.
Okay. Do you, did you want to discuss that?
In case, if anybody else wanted to, I mean, I'm
Well, you
happy
have a
to.
new hire that maybe we could discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Discuss that. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we, is it in the nature of non-public or
I don't know, because I'm not sure what
what
questions.
topics, salaries or any?
I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, but I can review the hiring since the last time, and if there's any
Maybe
questions.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you review, I don't think we need non-public for that.
I mean, you just did a major one, that's the one I'm speaking of at the
Yes.
high school.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, so I'm happy to speak
Sure,
to
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
we've hired an assistant principal. She began today. Her name is Jennifer DiStefano. She comes to us with a bachelor's degree in history and a master's degree in education, and both from Tufts University. And she has her CAGs and has completed her doctoral work. Is in the throes of her dissertation. She has 13 years of administrative experience coming to us at the high school level. She has 11 years of teaching experience as a social studies teacher at the high school. So we're incredibly thrilled to have somebody with her background in curriculum and instruction coming to us to be our assistant principal for the high school. So, like I said, she joined us today.
Great.
We had a screening committee of, I think, 9, that include faculty members and some administration, and we just couldn't be any more excited to
great.
get such a high-quality candidate
Awesome.
for that position.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
And she's already made an impact. One of the things that we were talking about, we're still managing, making some adjustments to schedules. You know, I have a little gap that I'm gonna ask for some, an increase in some FTE at the high school at our next meeting. But one of the things we're looking at, and she had suggested, is that we look at dual enrollment opportunities for our kids to expand our elective offerings. In particular, we're looking at, you know, the Spanish, you know, at the higher levels, but we're gonna look at others. So she's reaching out to develop some partnerships there and see if we can't get collaborative effort, moving forward, so that.
What does dual enrollment mean?
Dual enrollment means that they get college credits, so that it's usually either a faculty member becomes a faculty member of one of the higher ed institutions and teaches at this level, and then they get graduate credits through that university or college. So, or a professor from one of the local colleges comes and teaches at those level, and then it takes care of like their first year requirement for, in this case, it would be foreign language.
And what's the first one again?
The
You
first
said
one
the second one is a professor comes in and
comes in,
teaches.
or one of our faculty members, can be, take on the role of being a professor, that marries the curriculum at the college level with the curriculum here. It would only be for really advanced courses, but for higher level math courses, for opportunities, for foreign language in particular, it can really broaden your opportunities for kids. And again, saves parents money in the end, because if they get college credit, that will transfer into other universities or
So right now they're
colleges.
taking it through VLOX, like everything's done through VLOX.
Right.
So what she's proposing is that we utilize what we have around us through the community. Can we use UNH? Can we use Great Bay? Can we use any of these
Exactly.
colleges? And our kids benefit from it, and we benefit because we're not hiring a full-time person.
Right, this will be a transition away from VLAX, you're overly dependent on it, and,
Right.
yeah,
Can you try me one more time on the first option? I
Okay.
got the second one.
yeah. There's two models.
Right.
For dual enrollment. One model is that a professor actually, if you have a mass of students enough, and a professor is available, you could offer dual enrollment to students after school or in the evenings, let's say, as opposed to within your school day. So if you have enough students, I'm not saying we do now, I'm saying in the long run, if we have enough students, one model is for a professor to come down and actually teach. So it could be like, in place of our Spanish 5, level Spanish 5, and college, like a college level course for Spanish, let's say, that there's an amalgamation of the two curriculums, so that the students, when they take it, get credit in both
So we
things.
pay the professor to come into our school to
Right.
teach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or the other way is that you can have a well, there's three ways you can do it. You can have our kids enroll during the day, and then if they're offering a class there, you can have them actually go there and take the classes.
And
That's
who
another
pays for
way.
that?
There's a whole variety of different arrangements that you can have with that, so I'm not sure which way.
Okay.
Like, for example, when I was at Masconomet, we had this arrangement with Syracuse University. In that case, what we did is we had two of our faculty go there in the summer, and they were immersed in the curriculum for Syracuse. They came back, and then we taught 2 sections of a dual enrollment course in our foreign language department. That was actually, they got credit on their transcript for high school, but they also got 3 college credits in Syracuse University, which then could be transferred in. So that cost us $1,000 each year to have the faculty member twice a year have to go to the university to engage in professional development there. And then it cost us about $2,000 to initially send her and the other member of our
Gotcha. Okay.
faculty. So there's a variety of different ways that
Okay.
you can do it. I don't know what's available in New Hampshire, I'm
Okay.
just saying there's a variety of different ways.
My oldest and about 4 of his classmates drove to UNH twice a week, and they took a class.
SST offers some of them too, so
Yep.
the new principal down there will be able to help you, because the technical folks there are taking dual enrollment.
Dual enrollment also, yeah, so we'll explore those options too, but,
Okay, thanks.
it's just
Just
another
curious.
example of having a person that's really focused on high school curriculum
Gotcha.
can make a big difference for our kids.
Well, great news on the hiring.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
And
Very
that's,
exciting.
if there's nothing else, are we all set? Then you're fine with that?
Yep.
Okay, so
I mean-
we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Do we need
looking
a
for
motion?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
That's so moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.